Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about Jawas. Now, Jawas are very interesting creatures in the Star Wars universe. They're actually one of the very first alien creatures that we get to see in the movies. All the way back in the original Star Wars, we see them encounter our droid heroes R2 and C3PO and take them hostage to sell them to the residents of Tatooine. And I think that's really interesting because it pretty much sums up the main characteristics of the Jawas as a culture. They're junkers, they're scrappers. They are basically scavengers of the desert that come across any type of valuable they can find to repurpose and resell it. And I think it's a very interesting culture to have in Star Wars. These aren't creatures with high ambitions, or they're not trying to be pilots or Jedi or have crazy adventures. They're really just pretty much set in a way of life that they're comfortable with. They operate in these giant sand crawlers that are absolutely massive and perfectly built for traversing the Tatooine deserts. They use these to store all of their equipment, all of their scavenged vehicles, droids, weapons, everything that they've accumulated across the desert. They kind of toss in the back of this thing and then make their way into town where they can make a sale. Something I find interesting about Jawas is they do seem to be an annoyance, but also very invaluable to the people of Tatooine. Because despite having to worry about them stealing your items or trying to rip you off or selling you damaged goods, you can see that the people of Tatooine, on a planet that doesn't have a ton of natural resources, they do kind of depend on the Jawas for certain things. These farmers pretty much are limited to buying from Jawas at a cheap rate for help on their moisture farms or whatever else it is that they're trying to do. There's different citizens of the various cities of Tatooine that may run little shops or work on ships, and they rely on the Jawas for parts. And I think that makes them a very integral part of the culture, whereas the citizens aren't afraid of them like they are Tusken Raiders. They're just more annoyed with the Jawas sometimes, which is understandable because these guys will steal your own parts and then sell them back to you, as we see in Kenobi. One interesting thing about the Jawas is how the off world ones look different with the red eyes and the darker cloaks, which really shows that different subspecies of this creature exists, which is a nice little detail that really fleshes out the universe of Star Wars. And it's important to note that these creatures are never malicious. They do not actively try to attack people or rob people as far as with violence. They will sneak around and they will steal things, and they aren't the most upstanding citizens, but they aren't particularly violent or aggressive either. They do have ways to defend themselves if threatened, but their weaponry is more based around electronic stuns, things that can neutralize droids or other electronics. Although they do carry blasters, do not be deceived. But in general, though, the Jawas are peaceful people just trying to make a living. They seem to value themselves and each other more so than anybody else. And I think deep down they do harbor a respect for the citizens that they try to rip off every day, because at the end of the day, they wouldn't have a business and they would not be able to complete their livelihood without the great people of Tatooine or other planets where they frequent. And Jawas are very crafty, very intelligent, and very devious little creatures, and a phenomenal part of the Star Wars universe. I think their design is very interesting. I love how we never get to see them with their hood off and see what they look like under the hood. There's little references here and there to what they could look like, but I think their design is mainly based on the fact that the budget for the original Star Wars wasn't great, so they kind of had to piece together costumes here and there as they could. And the Jawas came of that because it is a very simple design, but it's very effective. Very memorable and makes them a unique part of the Star Wars universe. That's going to be it for this video. Just wanted to talk about some Jawas. Let me know your thoughts on the Jawas in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed so you don't miss out on any of our videos. And as always, may the force be with you. Now let's blow up that like button and go home.